It was a dry, starry night on Route 66, cutting through the Arizona desert in the United States, where the horizon fades into infinite shadows, and the air carries the scent of ancient dust and solitude. I'm the kind of guy who loves driving at night, the silence, the freedom, the whole world seeming like an arid dream. But that time, in 2018, I was just a truck driver heading back from a long delivery, with the smell of fuel permeating the cabin and the radio crackling static. The headlights illuminated twisted cacti like forgotten sentinels, and I felt that deep exhaustion, the kind that weighs on your eyes and chest. Suddenly, in the rearview mirror, I saw a silhouette, tall, thin, standing on the shoulder, with a long coat swaying as if the desert wind were possessing it. I stopped because, you think it's just someone needing help in the middle of nowhere. But when I approached, the figure didn't move. Its eyes, those eyes reflected the headlights like broken mirrors, empty, lifeless. I shouted, "Hey, you okay?" No response. Just the sound of the howling wind. I accelerated, my heart pounding in my chest, cold sweat running down my back. I looked in the rearview mirror again. She was closer now, right in the back seat, as if she had materialized there. I slammed on the brakes. The truck skidded in the sand, and when I looked, nothing. But I still feel it to this day. Every time I drive at night on Route 66, a shiver down my neck, as if those eyes are still following me. Reports like this from drivers who swear they've seen wandering shadows appear in FBI files on desert disappearances. And a paranormal expert once said, "American roads like the 66 are veins connecting the world of the living to the forgotten." And me? I never stopped to help anyone after sunset again. The call of the forest. Now, imagine a winding road in Dartmoor, in the wild hills of England, where the mist swallows everything, and the air smells of damp peat and ancestral secrets. This happened to a woman named Emily in 2020, returning from a family visit in Devon. She drove slowly, the headlights struggling against the dense fog, feeling that emptiness in her stomach that comes from nighttime solitude, the kind that makes you turn on the radio just to hear human voices. Suddenly, a noise, a low cry, like that of a lost child, coming from the forest beside the road. Emily stopped, her heart tight with mixed empathy and fear, because who wouldn't stop for a sound like that in the haunted lands of Dartmoor? She got out of the car, her feet sinking into the cold, soggy grass, calling, "Hey, is anyone there?" The cry grew louder, more desperate, pulling her into the dark trees, where branches scratched her skin like living nails. But the more she walked, the farther the sound retreated, as if it were guiding her into nothingness. Suddenly, silence. Emily turned to go back and saw fresh footprints around the car, footprints that weren't human, large, deformed, like something that crawls. She ran back, locked the doors and accelerated, the car skidding in the fog. The next day, police found the body of a missing man nearby with claw marks on his chest. Emily still hears that cry in her nightmares, and in a statement to Scotland Yard she whispered, "It wasn't a child, it was bait." Stories like this echo in English folk legends of the region, speaking of spirits like the Hound of Dartmoor that mimic voices to lure prey. If you hear a call on the road at night, ignore it. or it might be the last sound you hear.
The ghost car. Let's head to the Pacific Coast Highway on the California coast in the United States, where the Pacific Ocean roars like a hungry monster and the wind carries the salt and the smell of rotting seaweed. In 2015, a taxi driver named Mike made his living from it. Nighttime rides, empty conversations with drunk passengers along that iconic road. But that early morning, he picked up a man at the stop, tall, in an impeccable suit, with eyes that seemed like bottomless pits. "To the end of the road," the man said, his voice rough like gravel. Mike drove, feeling an inexplicable chill spreading through the car, as if the air were being sucked out. The passenger didn't speak, just stared at the dark sea, and Mike felt the hairs on his arms stand up, a tingling that climbed his spine. Suddenly, the man murmured, "I died here 20 years ago. Car accident. You see me because you're on the wrong path." Mike laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke, but he looked in the rearview mirror. The back seat empty, just a damp stain on the seat, smelling of salt water and decomposition. The car started to fail, the headlights flickering, and Mike saw, ahead, a cliff where a famous accident had happened decades before, near Big Sur. He braked in time, his heart in his throat, sweat mixed with tears of terror. Research later revealed the man in the suit was identical to the victim of an accident in 1995. A paranormal investigator quoted in a book, "Ghosts on American roads don't ask for rides, they demand company." Mike quit taxi driving and never drove at night again. And you? Have you ever felt a passenger who wasn't there? The invisible pursuit. Finally, the M25, the orbital motorway around London in England, vast and unforgiving, where nighttime traffic echoes like a river of cold lights, but the darkness hides urban horrors. This was in 2022, with a delivery driver named Tom, exhausted after hours at the wheel, the smell of packages and cigarettes filling the van. He saw headlights in the rearview mirror, a car approaching fast, flashing high beams like a signal of urgency. Tom pulled over, thinking it was a mechanical issue, but the car stopped behind him, blinding headlights, with no one getting out. He honked, shouted through the open window, feeling the humid night air loaded with smoke and something rotten, like decaying garbage. The car behind suddenly accelerated, lightly colliding with the rear, forcing Tom back onto the road. The pursuit began. The invisible vehicle pushed him, headlights like hungry eyes, and Tom floored the accelerator, the van groaning, sweat dripping into his eyes, panic gripping his chest like a claw. He called the police, his voice trembling. "Someone's following me, but I don't see the driver." When he finally stopped at a service station, the pursuing car vanished, but collision marks on the bumper, and on the asphalt, footprints leading nowhere. Similar reports appear in metropolitan police bulletins, ghost pursuers, linked to unsolved assaults on British roads. A previous survivor wrote on a forum, "It wasn't a car, it was death testing me." Tom still drives, but with a cross on the dashboard, praying that the road doesn't call him back. These encounters don't end when the sun rises. They remain etched in the soul, echoing in every dark curve, in every distant headlight. They are real, told by people like you and me who just wanted to get home. But what if the road has other plans? A final revelation. All these drivers reported the same smell, something sweet and rotten, like wilted flowers on a fresh grave. Coincidence? Or a warning that danger doesn't come only from what we see?
Do you believe this really happened? Have you experienced something similar on the road at night? If this touched you, it's because this story needed to reach you. Share in the comments and subscribe to the channel, but only if you have the courage to hear more. Drive carefully. The night is waiting for you.